Hello and welcome to Sporting Jibberish. I'm Stu Booth.
I'm Jack Luffman.
What's wrong with you already? We've not even started anything, you already got the giggles.
I just think I'm going crackers. Long, hard term, hard week. Late night last night, I'm gone, mate. Need my beauty sleep, as you can tell.
Well, I know there's enough hours in a day. Yeah, only 9 working days left. 9 working days left. Not that we're counting. Anyway, on with today's show. So today's show we'll be obviously covering the European Championships. We are now entering the latter stage of the tournament. No more group games left. We'll have a quick look at what's going on there. We're going to be having a little look at cricket because we all need some material to have a bit of a nap. Obviously, we'll talk briefly about the US Open, but something else going on with the British Lions?
Yeah, obviously they start their tour or their matches ready for their South African tour this week. So
okay, so we'll have a look at that. But we're going to start off with our sport week. But I think we're going to start with the golf, aren't we?
Well, air golf first, or your magnificent tipping?
Oh, well, let's go with the US Open first. Oh no, let's go with the US Open.
Go on.
So
who won?
Jon
Rahm, and who did you predict?
Jon Rahm.
Very, very good. Very good. What a performance it was as well. I think it was like the big boys. My two were in contention up to the last round, McIlroy and DeChambeau. But yeah, the big fella, Jon Rahm, came back, and really good story actually, because I think we touched on it last week that actually his last tournament he was leading and had to pull out of a fairly big tournament, or a very big tournament actually, the Congressional, because of COVID, and he hadn't hardly played since then.
Do you know how much I won on it?
Go on out. Oh, but are you leaving the country?
No.
How much are you doing on it?
I didn't put a bet on.
Did you not put a bet on? Oh, no. So you told everybody else to put some money on it?
Yeah. So if you'd like to donate to me, I'll give you my PayPal account after the show and we can talk about that. In other news, our WSO golf event happened last week, which was interesting.
It was hot, wasn't it?
It was stupidly hot. Why we decided to go and play in that heat, I'll never know. We teed off at 7:52, I think it was, and by 9 o'clock I was literally burnt out.
Yeah, it was absolutely red as it, and I actually thought it might be a bit cooler because we went to Ajman, which is a bit, is it north of there? I think north of Dubai, a little bit closer to the coast. But I think it was warm, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I didn't even realise we were playing until after the show last week. I literally put a message in the group saying, "Can anybody pick me up?" And then I got a message back saying, "Yeah, I can. We're leaving at 6." And I was like, "Well, we've got to be there for 7:30. Shoot, why are we leaving at 6? They go on the driving range or something?" And it turns out it was like a 45-minute drive away.
Yeah, and it was absolutely red. But we had a good crack. The Sporting Jibberish team, we looked good, didn't we?
We certainly did. We're the best dressed team.
100% the best dressed team. Fortunately, didn't win the team competition. And
did we pick up any prizes?
We didn't pick anything up because we didn't win the team one. We were nowhere near the individual score really, any of us, and my closest to the pin on hole 2 or 3 got beat on the very last shot, I think, by Lewis.
Oh, was it Lewis?
Yeah, it
wasn't the pro George.
Not the pro George, no, or the other pro Mike, or...
Yeah, how did they end up in the same group? It's ridiculous. Who thinks of these groups?
Fox team.
Oh, it just happened to be the organiser puts himself in with 2 pros.
And they win it.
Yeah, frightening. Absolutely frightening. But good day out. Thank you very much, Fox. Great organisation. And as we said, the former chairman, Keane actually won the competition.
Yeah, Keane won good points tally as well.
Yeah.
So good work. So the last one he plays and he'll win and got the trophy now. Also, Paul presented him with a little gift from everybody, didn't he? Which makes that really good. So but it was a good day. Had by all. I slept well that afternoon, though, let me tell you, when I got back.
I was all over the place. It messed me up big time for the game. Yeah. I may as well have just gone to bed and stayed in bed because of the way he performed.
We're not mentioning that
story.
Yeah.
Right, what's going on with Wanderers?
Oh, well, we've got
I see that you've
the
gone
badge and the club colours.
You've gone on Twitter, you like Man City.
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, and then Facebook as well. I think it's on the way. So, yeah, hopefully got a launch night either next week or the week after. I think we've had meetings with sponsors this week. I had a meeting this afternoon with kit suppliers. So, all systems go, quite exciting, and a bit of traction on social media as well with people keen to join or see what it's all about. So,
awesome. All
going in the right direction, that's for sure.
Beautiful. Any games planned in?
Not yet. I think we'll start. We're going to need to find out when the league starts, and then we'll obviously have to have some pre-seasons. But I think there might be at Jebel Ali actually.
Oh no! So that means it's a long way for me to come and heckle you.
Yeah, but we're back at the 7s though for the league game, so you'll be alright. You might be playing, yeah, so I shouldn't worry. How's your football gone this week?
Last night. It was a strange one. So I went to the physio yesterday in probably my worst condition I've ever been.
Because you said to me you didn't think you'd play.
I was really struggling yesterday, cramping up, really seized up, a lot of pressure on my back, and then I went to the physio. Half an hour, 35 minutes later, and she's like, I think you can go and play. I was like, really? I said, this is the worst I felt. She's like, your performance is feeling okay, but you've got a few spasms in your back and your hamstring, but hopefully we've sorted it out, so you should be good to go. And then the words were, no sprinting and no sharp turning. And I was a little bit like, well, surely that just means I can't do anything then. And then I realised that I'm not fast, so I don't really sprint, and I don't turn very quick. I'm a bit like the QE2.
So QE2.
Yeah. So no issues there. I told the gaffer, he says, right, I'm going to put you in midfield. Did the first 30 in midfield, did alright, 1-1. After the first 30, we played 3:30 because the heat is stupid out here. It was 41 when I got in the car.
At what time kickoff's now?
I left here at 7:40 and the kickoff was an hour away. So it was probably late 30s by the time I kicked off. And then the centre forward had a few ropes, just hadn't really got into the game, so then he says to me, I'm going to sit up front. And then in that second 30, hit the bar, scored, hit the bar again, and then scored again, put us 3-1 up. And then he kept saying to me, you alright, you alright? And I'm going, well, surprisingly, he feels okay. And just carried on and on and ended up playing what should have been 30 minutes was agreed before the game, ended up playing 90.
Good effort, felt alright?
Feeling alright today, it's just a little bit tight on the left hand side, but absolutely fine.
Good, and you won as a team?
1-3-1, yeah. So leads us up to the last game, which is against the Irish next week, and Irish need to beat us to win the league. We win or draw, we won the league.
Excellent, good game.
So yeah, it's all destined on next week's game, so it should be interesting. And yeah, they're going well at the moment, the Irish, so it'll be interesting. It's dead bizarre is that we seem to be full of random English people from all up and down the country and Scottish people, and then the Irish are full of Irish and Scousers. So as you can imagine, that physical will be a big element in next week. That's all we're talking.
I might come and watch, and if our launch night's not next week, I might come and watch and maybe get some footage for our social pages. You might have to bleep it out.
Well, I believe last night's game was recorded, so I should be able to get hold of footage of the 2 goals, 2 crossbar hits. The second crossbar hit was ridiculous. I've come inside and it's on my left foot, and I've just gone, right, I've opened up like I'm going front post, I'm going right across the keeper, but I figured if I just lift it high, I've got half a chance. I've lifted it directly onto the crossbar, and I'm like, basically just got my sandwich out from the golf and chipped onto the bar.
You went on hard with the sandwich last week, actually.
Well, I spent so much time in the bunkers, I had to get better.
You got England's fever, because we've hit the woodwork 3 times in the 3 group games, haven't we?
Yeah, but I'm a better scorer for them, Harry Kane, though.
Oh,
just saying, Gaz Southgate, if you need a striker, 6 goals in the last 4 games.
Get yourself in.
Harry Kane.
Only half fit as well.
Step out of the way, my friend, I'm here. Right, as we mentioned there, the Lions. So it's due to start?
Yeah, so they've obviously been in training camp, and they play their first game Saturday, 3 o'clock UK time, at Muirfield in Edinburgh against Japan. So I just thought it was a nice way just to kick off. It's always a bit, I think it's one of those things, a little bit like the Ryder Cup, isn't it? That even if you're not a golf fan, you're a sports fan, lots of people get into it. And I think same with the Lions tour, that you're not necessarily a rugby union fan or diehard, but when the Lions come around, everybody gets on board. So that kicks off this weekend with Japan. So it's a bit strange because only obviously some of them, there's a Premiership final as well Saturday as well. So that obviously they're without some of the whole squad, but a bit like any sort of tournament at the minute, it could come in time. So I believe it's the first time that any kind of Lions testing will go into a game in the starting 15 without an English player, or first time for a lot of years. So, but that's indicative of the fact that England haven't been very good since the World Cup final. They've not been very good, have they? So. Yeah.
That's fair enough. Japan, not an easy game either, because they came through with the World Cup, didn't they? They looked a bit of a force.
It was Eddie Jones in the 2015 World Cup would have been when he was there. Yeah. Was it in England and Wales? Was it? Yeah. That they certainly sprung us. Did it beat South Africa or? They
beat somebody, didn't they?
Yeah.
Decent nation.
But yeah, so I think it'll be a good run out and another good sport and life sport.
Yeah, it makes me laugh though, because when you look at it, it'll be some Japanese players then mixed in with Islanders. So it's almost like it's like a false Japanese team. It's a bit like what Apollo was saying to us on here, that he has two UAE teams. He has the UAE team which is full of the UAE nationals, and he has the UAE team which is full of expats. And the UAE nationals go and play in like the international competitions because they're not quite at the standard of the A ones, and then the UAE international team that go and play in the A competitions is usually full of all the expat boys, which I think pretty similar with what Japan is. But with a nation that size, I can imagine if they can get it off at grassroots level, that in a few years' time there'll be a decent force.
Definitely, I think that's the argument, isn't it? When you're using expats who have qualified in your sport, and obviously there's a lot of that happens when all sports, cricket, very popular doing it, probably for different reasons. But I think that's the argument, is it? You know, if Japan didn't use Islanders or expats, where would the game be? You know, they're better because of that. It's more exposure than hopefully grassroots come through. So, and
it's always good if you're an up and coming player. If you're playing with a better player, you can see them in action. You can learn from them some traits that you pick up, like the work ethic and stuff like that, which you wouldn't necessarily get if you were just in amongst all the other amateur players.
And I think the bigger picture for sports and rugby union as well is that actually it increases the competitiveness nationwide in all the competitions, because there is in some sports. Cricket is getting there. I suppose even the Euros, qualifying for Euros and World Cup in football, it's almost like we need 2 or 3 layers for the international teams. So actually improving the level of some of the lesser nations, actually on the whole, will eventually, if it worked, would improve the quality overall, wouldn't it? So
I wonder on that note, I wonder if they've ever thought about having like a supplemented World Cup where the lesser nations get an opportunity, because I know UAE have just qualified, haven't they, through the first phase. So they've just qualified from the first phase of that, and the chances are they're going to be playing against the likes of Australia and Japan, and they're not really going to be able to compete against them nations. And we're talking about Australia and Japan going to the World Cup and not being able to compete with the bigger nations. So it's almost like an impossible task for some countries to ever qualify. That maybe if there was another, I'm not talking about a regional tournament, but like another World Cup for. It's almost
like a championship.
I refer back to when we were in England. They have the FA.
The
FA Schools Cup.
Yes.
So what they do is they say that there's a couple of competitions. There's one that's there for if you have X amount of students in the school, you go into the big competition. If you've got lesser, you can go into this one. And there's also like a new and up and coming one. So if you're a school that's only just opened up in that area, you can actually enter that competition. So you actually go in and pitching yourself up against the teams that are, or schools at a similar size. I'm not saying that I wouldn't want to take away from the World Cup, but maybe it's something that would be good for some nations to get out there.
Yeah, and maybe even on a different cycle. So actually, the winners or the top or the 4 semi-finalists of that World Cup
could then qualify
to the main ones, which is a different thing.
Well,
so they've still got a chance of
a bit like the EuroLeague.
Because I think that has been really good for European international football, because it means that they're competitive games. And people might say it's nothing, it's this, but they're better than friendlies. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise that they're better than friendlies. And like I say, it's a route into the European Championship.
Yeah, I hate friendlies. They just die. But like Test match cricket.
Okay, I wouldn't let that take. But anyway, rugby fans out there, and actually we've got a special. So we were going to do a British Lions special with 2 of our stalwart rugby fans, Larkin, the fantasy footballer. He's not just a fantasy football expert, and Charlie. Prior to the squad announcement, they'd both picked their squads, but we just couldn't get it off the ground. But what we will do is get them in to have a chat about maybe starting 11-15 or preview the Test matches.
Yeah, well, I saw Charlie today now. Thinks he's a fancy football expert as well.
Oh mate, all these egg chasers do, don't they?
Yeah, but yeah, on to football. European Championships. Obviously, the group stages have just finished. Just run through, just a quick overview. Some interesting things from the different groups. Italy have obviously finished top, scored 7, conceded none. That's a decent record in there. And then you've got Belgium, have obviously played 3-1-3, but they only conceded 1. Scored the same as Italy. Holland, slightly different, conceded 2, but again 1, but then scored 1 more. I think there's an element of risk with the Holland team. I think they could be liable to get out of the back. England, which is the bizarrest record you've potentially ever seen in the group stages, played 3, 1-2, drawn 1. scored 2, conceded none. So awesome on the defensive front, but a real concern on the attacking front, especially given our record of penalties. Sweden actually finished top of their group, which I don't think anybody would have seen at the beginning of the competition when you look at Spain. So what do you read into that? 1-2, drawn 1, scored 4, conceded 2, much of a muchness. And then what was considered the group of death, which was last night. And at some point throughout the games, each team had qualified, and I think each team had been kicked out of the competition. But yeah, it finished with France top, who have played 3, won 1, drawn 2, scored 4, conceded 3. So hard group, and I don't know what you actually take from that with regards to...
And I don't really know who you want to play. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but I don't know in the next one who you'd really want to play. All I'll say is there are 2 things about the group stage, I think, what I've watched. Hungary, first of all, I think they did really well. They held their own in that, unsurprisingly.
I felt like all their games were home matches.
Yeah,
so they were allowed these massive amount of fans in the first 2 games. And it's funny because if you watch the games, if anybody did watch it, there was a cluster of like 40, 50 guys with black t-shirts on, which seems to be like their Barmy Army. Yeah. They were actually in Romania for the game last night against Germany. So they've basically had a massive following, and obviously playing in front of crowds like, not taking away they're not a rubbish team, but they've definitely surprised.
They've definitely got alright. Actually, 2 more things. Firstly, there's that one. I thought England done alright. I don't like this 3rd place. I don't like the draw. This 3rd place thing. There's not enough jeopardy in it. It's only really that group, and to an extent Wales's group when they played on Sunday evening, where there was that excitement where a big team could go out, or there was lots and lots to play for. You know, the fact like England, and to be fair to them, you know, they'd already qualified before even playing their 3rd game by scoring 1 goal.
Yeah.
Bizarre. The other thing, I think, like when I first saw the idea of, and I know it's changed slightly because of COVID, but the idea of it being around Europe, I thought that's quite a good idea. I don't like it. No. Now it's happening, I don't like it.
I tell you, you go in there, aren't you? It's like a kettle slowly coming up now.
You're going to push some buttons, aren't you?
No, I'm not going to do anything. You're parboil at the moment, parboil.
Good.
Right, okay, so
anyway.
I'm going to go through these fixtures and you're going to tell me who's going to win. Okay. Belgium, Portugal.
Belgium.
Ooh. Italy, Austria.
Italy.
France, Switzerland.
France.
Croatia, Spain.
Spain.
Sweden, Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Ooh. England, Germany.
England.
Netherlands, Czech Republic.
Netherlands.
Wales, Denmark.
Wales.
Alright, okay, right, so we're going to carry on. We're not going to stop there. So we're going to go to the next set of fixtures. Belgium will play Italy according to yours. Who goes through?
Belgium.
Yeah, that's a hard draw, that. Yeah. Hard draw. It gets worse for them. Who's going to win France, Spain?
France.
Them 2 play each other in the semi. Ukraine, England.
England.
Netherlands, Wales. Which would have been the Baku game.
That's where it would have been.
Yeah. Devastating.
I've got a glass of water in front of me. I'm not going to check. Netherlands will do well.
Netherlands. Okay, so that gets you semi-final. Belgium, France.
France, because Belgium will bottle it.
England, Netherlands.
England.
So that would then put France versus England in the final.
England.
Right, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this and I'll put it up against mine and we'll see where it goes. But strangely is that I picked France at the beginning of the tournament and I'm just dead set on France winning it. But they've been awful.
Yeah.
They've been decidedly average in their games.
Yeah, and it's bizarre. I mean, I don't think we need to talk too much about England. England is what I think they've been pragmatic, and like I said all along, if they go through 4 games and win the next 4 1-0, we'll all be absolutely loving July the 11th. It's as simple as that, isn't it? Because you know, like France have been disappointing, but we've both said it on air and elsewhere that Germany and Italy are tournament experts, and you'll find that I don't know the guys, but when they're
tournament experts, you've just got England knocking them out next game.
Yeah, in the past, but how many times have they won tournaments by just going 1-0?
Yeah,
2-1. And yet we praise that. Yet when England seem to be, Southgate seems to be, and don't get me wrong, I'm frustrated as the next man watching them play. Like the other night, first half, I thought, this is better. The front four, bit of pace. The front four were good, lots of movement, etc., more chances. And then second half, it was like watching Friday night's game again. But if Germany were doing that, or Italy were doing that, we would be, and they're managing their way through the tournament.
Yeah, you say that. I just think that, and I said this to somebody the other day, I can't remember who I was talking to, I talk to that many people about football all the time, is that England haven't set up the tournament to win the group games. They've set up the tournament to be ready for the knockout stages. And I think that if you look at that team, I was at football last night, I remember saying that, is you look at the games against Croatia, potentially you might have held 2 holding midfielders. Definitely need 2 holding midfielders against Scotland. Definitely need 2 holding midfielders against Czech Republic. That system has been drilled in. That's not by accident. That's been on purpose, ready for these knockout games. So I think it's designed for when we play the better teams, because you go back. There's Germany, 2 different teams at the moment. You've got the Germany that played against Portugal, which pinned in, pressed, and were magnificent against Portugal. Then you've got the German team that scraped through against Hungary. And I've got a feeling we're going to have a similar approach to the way Hungary did against the game, and Portugal to a degree, is where we're going to sit in, we're going to be a defensive, horrible unit to break down, and then look to play the counter. My biggest issue is that 2 goals in 3 games is not good. Harry Kane, and it's not the Harry Kane we've seen in the Premiership, not by a million miles. I don't know if he's not suiting the system, if we don't play the ball fast enough forward, or if there's something else that's just niggling away at him that he just doesn't look as sharp as
well. I agree with that. I mean, he was better. He looked better. He had a better all-round game on whenever not Tuesday night, and certainly looked more like the person we know in the first half. Second half was just a battle. There's something not quite right, but like I say, I think they're just setting up. And again, if all of a sudden he goes and scores 4 goals in the next 4 games, nobody cares of it. But what's good is that, what's good? What's worrying is that not so much the goals, we're not really creating any chances.
No.
You know, like Croatia going frozen, it's the post. After that, we get the goal. I can't remember another one. Scotland.
Kane back post, that was the only other one I remember in that game.
Yes, yeah. Scotland.
Header.
John Stone should absolutely bury that. Yeah. Other than that,
no,
can't think. And the other night we did have 3 or 4. Sterling hits the post before he scored. Kane had a good shot, a good chance, good save. A few other sort of half moments, let's say. Second half. No.
So what does he do in this next game? Because Grealish and Saka were probably our 2 best players. I'm also surprised that Jadon Sancho's not been given more of now.
I think there's something he's seeing on the training ground that he doesn't like. I think.
So what does he do? Does he go back to? And let's be honest, Foden has got ability, but hasn't done what we expected.
No.
So does that mean then that Foden's sacrificed? And then where does Mason Mount come back into this team?
Well, they don't know whether Mount will play because of this isolation,
which is a complete farce on a different level.
Absolutely. I don't understand it, and I'm not even going to try and understand it. It's just ridiculous. For me, I would pick the front 4 that started on Tuesday night.
So Grealish, Saka,
and Sterling in behind Kane, because I did say something. It was Ronaldo at work before that. But actually, if you look at when England have played or best look the most threatening in recent years, it's when actually Kane and Sterling have played as a 9 and 10, because Kane drops off, he gets behind him. If Kane stays up, he picks up the pieces, and actually that's what happened a lot more on Tuesday night. And I would play one of Rice or Phillips, and I would play Henderson next to him. I thought Henderson had actually a reasonable 45 minutes of the night. And Mount doesn't get in for me. Because to be honest with you, I like him and I like Foden, but I don't think either of them. For me, the 2 lads you just mentioned the other night, Saka and Grealish, did a lot more in their hour of football, 70 minutes of football, than what the other 2 had done in 2 games. Ideally, I'd like to play Mount, but I'm thinking of Southgate. Yeah. He's going to play 2 defensive.
I think with Mount is that he drifts in and out too much of the game, and there's not enough there. But another interesting one would be Maguire stays in.
Yeah,
plays alongside Stones. But then who's the fullback's going to be?
I mean, I've been really disappointed with the fullbacks in all 3 games whoever's played there. I thought after the point against Scotland the other night, and we've not really talked about it, there was a number of occasions, particularly Reece James, who on here, regular listeners know, I rate very highly. He was scared to cross the football, which is his strength. Yeah. And I think Luke Shaw's been very average.
But then you have Trips that always comes in on his right foot.
Yeah, no, you've got to stick with the left back, and I would stick again with the. To be honest with you, I'd stick with the back four, pretty much the 11 that's played the other night.
Okay, right. Well,
we'll see.
But I did call it beforehand. England wouldn't be getting any further. I think did I say they get that quarter-final? So,
yeah.
But I can't see us getting past Germany.
If we get past Germany, it's not a bad route in, is it?
No, I think when I initially looked at it, I did mean this round, not the quarters, because I thought it went straight into the quarters. But yeah,
I mean, on the draw, and it's not because the draw is bizarre, isn't it? So I was doing it. There's the other half England are in. It's the top fixture on the war chart in the office. It's second place plays second place.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that at all in any sporting competition. So I'm guessing when it was done, it was drawn out of pots.
I have no idea. Anyway, right. I just wanted to cover a little bit about potential transfers.
Yeah.
But then also other things that are going on within the world of football, because at the moment we're all fixated on this. So what I was going to bring to your attention is obviously the Spurs thing still going on. Somebody's come forward and said we should leave Mason in charge.
Klinsmann said he'd do it.
Klinsmann has put his name forward, and then you've brought Nuno back on the table.
Yeah, first heard that, and then I've read somewhere Potter is back on the table. It's ridiculous when got that. Do you know what?
I generally think Potter wouldn't be the worst. No. I think it'd be a decent thing because he works well with the group of players that he's got, and he plays football. I think with the fact that you're going to go through a rebuild, because City are now chucking money about, aren't they, for Kane?
And that is my point to link it all together. I just wonder, and I know I know that everybody works with him, I think everybody can see that he's the ultra professional. I just wonder, because let's be honest, everything else in his football career he's been used to. He's never been used to this speculation around this thing. I just wonder whether that's actually happening behind the scenes. Not that it's an excuse, but I just wonder, and I think that is why the manager search hasn't gone well. I think that's why the turning looks like we're going to go back to even Mason or those guys I just mentioned, because I think that deal is done, and so the job is going to be a rebuild around whoever we can get as a semi-replacement and around that. So, and do you know what? As frustrating as that is, I haven't got an issue with Kane going. You know that because I think he deserves to go. But just come out and say that to the fans when it's all done. Not want to rebuild, because the fans will get on board then. Don't be don't appoint Potter in all due respect to whoever it is and come out and go, we'll appoint him because we know he can win things for us. Rubbish. You got absolutely no quantity to say that. Come out and say, look, we sold this, we move on to rebuild, we're going for a 3-year rebuild, 5 years, or within 3 years we want to be challenging where we were 3 years ago. But it's a joke that we've not got managed that still, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that needs to happen quickly. But the other interesting news that's been floating about the place is that the few ones, but I'm going to go to a French team in a second, but James Rodriguez has now decided he doesn't want to be at Everton. He's asked his agent to get in contact with a few clubs. Real Madrid are back on the board, Atletico Madrid, AC Milan and Napoli, potentially looking at the Colombian. Real Madrid are going to challenge Arsenal for the Swedish guy, Alexander Isaac, who he's disappointed me a little bit. He's had a couple of little moments here and there, but the one I wanted to look at, and I've mentioned this, is looking at Paris Saint-Germain, because there's a certain worry there that they are building a squad together. So they've already got a decent enough squad as it is. There's talks of Donnarumma going to join them. The Italian keeper has been phenomenal for Italy. So Donnarumma then challenges Navas in goal. You've got a great centre-back pairing anyway already there, and then they're throwing in that they're going to offer a contract to Sergio Ramos. So you chuck that into the mix. They've just signed Johnny Wijnaldum, and then they're after Hakimi from Inter Milan, who's this absolutely lightning fast right back, right wing back. And then you chuck in the fact that they've got Mbappe, Neymar, as well as other players, Di Maria. They are putting together a serious squad there.
But it needs to happen, doesn't it, for them to challenge on all their fronts. And I think you mentioned a few weeks back that he's got to get hold of their attitude. And I just wonder whether this building block, they're going to let one or two bad eggs go. Even if it's one of the superstars. I don't know if there are any bad eggs, but there's definitely something not quite right there. Poch seems to be trying to put his stamp on it anyway.
Well, it'd be interesting, but it's definitely worth, if you're a betting person, is looking early doors at Champions League for them, it might be worth a bit of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't turn my nose up at it anyway.
Follow Stu's bets, but he won't bet it. Anyway.
Yeah, if I don't put it on, it will win. If I put it on, then just avoid it. And the other one I just wanted to look at is there's talks now Liverpool looking at McGinn.
I saw that somewhere. Yeah.
I like him and I think he's good, but my worry is he's going to be another Charlie Adam. He's going to cost us an arm and a leg to get him from another English club, and he's better suited in a team where he's going to be the biggest fish in the pond. Yeah. So I do like him. He was very non-existent against Croatia, but in the previous games he was pretty good, and I've seen him a few times with Villa, and he does make them tick. But I worry that is he going to be another. Was a big fish in a relatively medium to low size pool, and then suddenly go into the depths of Liverpool. Yeah. Is he going to be able to compete with the likes of Thiago and Henderson that could just potentially?
I mean, he's a similar sort of player to Henderson and Milner, would you say?
Yeah, I like him because he's got a bit of ability on the ball. He's also got nasty speaking.
I think he's decent. I did see that, but I do take your point. Is that too big a step?
Possibly.
Does he need 2 years at a? Maybe between, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
I was saying Spurs, but you're probably the same level as Villa. Anyway, we'll move swiftly on from that point, and let's turn our focus to cricket.
Yes, so obviously this last week's been the culmination of the World Test Championship.
Friendly competition.
You've been glued. I mean, we're not going to get into the format, but it's culminated 2 years worth of points accrued, and it was India versus New Zealand down in Hampshire. And the weather took out 2 full days, but they
why would you play any cricket in England?
but they did, yeah. But they did put a reserve day in, like a 6th day, which they used, and New Zealand came out on top. And they did ever so well. I was looking at the scores yesterday afternoon, and I'd worked out. I think that India had a lead of about 106. There's about 60 overs left in the day. I said, well, India need to bowl them out. New Zealand need to bowl them out for about 150, and then I'll see if they can have a dart at it. And then the next time, I think they took 5 wickets for not many and chased 136, 2 wickets down. So brilliant. But you know what? It's great to see because New Zealand, I think, are the way that everybody wants to play the cricket.
I was going to say that
they've got loads of ability. They're nice people,
but then they're also willing to risk things, aren't they? So like the England game as well. So is it a deserved win because they're the type of team that are going to go for it?
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to sit there and go, let's just see this out. We're going to dangle a carrot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I didn't watch any of that, so I can't comment as to whether India were a bit too conservative when they were they looking to play for the draw from the beginning of yesterday's play. I can't comment on that. I didn't watch it, but certainly it's good, and that's the former captain McCullum. That's his influence on Williamson. But yeah, so richly deserved. And do you know what? It's nice to see one of the smaller nations because I think I need to get it right, but I think they've only got about 100 professional first-class cricketers in New Zealand. And so to become they were the number 1 Test ranked side in the world going into the competition, and now to be the official and first ever holders of the World Test Championship for a small place like that is cracking really. So that was really good, and that was on the back of a really good women's Test match.
Yeah,
albeit ended in a draw, but I think it was a really good advert for women's Test cricket. And I know the clamour is to have more of that around, which can only be good for the women's game, which is good.
Yeah, good stuff. And then potentially T20s.
Yeah, T20 started last night. England, Sri Lanka. England, I didn't watch it, but England ran out easy winners next one tonight. So that's really the start of their build towards the World Cup in October, November, which of course is here in the UAE.
Fingers crossed. Well,
fingers crossed you can go to some games, Stu.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, T20s aren't too bad. I can manage them, but give me a Test match unless there is a beer tent right next to me.
We can sort that.
Well, you know, I did do a Test match once
At Old Trafford.
Did I tell you? I did Old Trafford versus England versus India.
No, you didn't.
I genuinely did go to it. I got it as a freebie.
It's a joke. I feel this is a joke.
No, I genuinely went. Andy Clitheroe and his brother Stu, we went along, and we actually bumped into Dickie.
Dickie Bird?
Yeah, he was right near. Well, we walked through and he came through, and I was like, oh, it's Dickie Bird. And then Andy, I think, ran off to get a picture with him. But then, yeah, we were sat in the corporate section with Hayes, whatever they are.
Hayes Recruitment.
Yeah, Hayes Recruitment. And yeah, we sat there and had a few drinks and stuff, but we weren't near the Barmy Army section, so it was quite chilled and chilled. Yeah, basically very chilled out section. But yeah, I managed till about, I think it started at 10 o'clock.
11 o'clock. Was it test match? Was it?
Yeah. So 11 o'clock. Broad was bowling. He got a few out, and then I lasted for about 3, I think, 3:30, and I was like, yeah, get him over, man.
Backdoor boot, did it?
Well, I was in Manchester, so it's a bit hard to backdoor it. But yeah, I've done test match. It's different watching it live than it is massively different than watching it on TV.
Yeah.
Snooze time at home. But yeah, all right. End of the number shot is number 60.
Number 60.
60.
Can you believe it? 60.
I can't tell looking at the city of your face. Looks like he's aged you.
I have, mate. It's having to deal with you all the time. That's the problem.
Well, I don't know what that means. But on that note, I think we're going to end it, Jack. But end of the day, Jack.
What do we know?